So, before I start the report, I'd just like to say I'm skipping out on a bunch of DXM trips that just weren't interesting enough for videos. After a lot of shitty DPH and acid trips in 2018, I went back to doing DXM and it was fucking amazing, but most of my trips were just spent in bed staring at my ceiling, which isn't interesting enough to talk about for a full trip report. So instead, I'm going to jump to one of the few times I did DXM in public at school. It was my sophomore year of high school, and I was at the peak of my depression. I never paid attention or did any of the work, and I was failing all my classes, so at that point, it didn't seem that bad of an idea to trip at school anymore. My friend Marissa wanted to do it with me and agreed to bring some syrup for it. The next day, I met them in the bathrooms before class, and we each sat in the stall next to each other. They took out the syrup, drank half of it, and then passed it to me under the stall. I finished it, took a Benadryl to avoid nausea, left the stall, and then said goodbye to them before heading to class. The only thing I really remember about my first class is that it was kind of starting to kick in, and that it was really hard to stay awake because the Benadryl was making me super slumped. After that period ended, I walked into the hall, and this is when I realized I was going to be way too fucked up for school because it kicked in super hard. Instead of going straight to my next class, I kind of just started robo-walking around the school aimlessly. My old school was a really weirdly designed building with lots of seemingly pointless hallways and weird walls made out of stone that gave it a back rooms / liminal space kind of vibe, and it was super trippy and cool to explore in DXM. I didn't explore too much though, because I still had to go to my next class and I didn't want to be late. So I eventually headed over there and I sat down, and I don't really remember much of this class either, except for in the middle of the class, I get called down to the office. And at this point, I'm tripping pretty hard, and I start fucking freaking out, thinking that, like, somehow they figured out that I'm tripping, and that's why they're calling me down to the office. And I get down there, and they say that guidance counselor wants to speak to me. So, at this point, I'm sure I've been caught, and I'm having, like, a full-blown panic attack, and I have to sit there and wait for her for what feels like forever, while I'm fucking shaking from anxiety, and I fucking go in, and she just wants to give me a fucking McDonald's coupon. So recently, before this story, my friends thought it would be a really, like, hilarious joke to, like, log on to my school email and message my English teacher asking for crackers, and the school took this as me seriously having issues getting enough food at home. And I tried to tell them that it was just a joke that my friends did, and they didn't believe me. So I guess I actually got put on the list for that kind of thing. So I wasn't in any trouble at all. She just called me down to give me a fucking McDonald's coupon. She was like, "Oh, I heard you have some trouble getting food at home. Do you want this McDonald's coupon?" And if I was sober, I would have tried to explain that I had enough food at home and that I didn't need the coupon. But I was so fucking high, and I was just relieved that I wasn't in trouble like I was freaking out that I thought I was. So I just took it and fucking left and went back to class and tried to calm down after that extremely stressful experience. Once that class ended, it was like next period. It was like third period, and this was the only period that I actually remember well. It was biology class, and as soon as it started, my teacher made me take a test that I missed the day it was for. I was absent that day, so I had to take it. And I was tripping so fucking hard that while I was taking it, I felt like I was fucking acing it. I was like, I'm doing so great, I'm gonna get a fucking A on this. But I literally wasn't thinking about my answers at all. I was literally just marking shit down randomly. And after that, I think we watched this, like, really weird video about, like, horrible birth defects that spread through genes and whether it's worth it or not to get tested for those kind of birth defects. Because, like on one side, like, it's good to know that kind of thing, but on the other side, like, it can keep you from like starting a family and getting on with your life and doing something that you've always wanted to do. And it was kind of like this weird ethical debate thing, and it was super like kind of like dark and weird to watch while I was tripping, but at least it was kind of interesting. I don't know, it was really weird. After biology class, I only had one more period because my school was weird and it had like 4 90-minute periods instead of like 8 40-minute periods or something. And I don't remember my last period at all, if I'm being honest. I was so dissoed at that point that everything was a fucking blur. I couldn't keep memory at that point. But I get through my last class and I go home, and I think I don't remember being home, honestly, but I think I slept pretty early. And I woke up the next day fine. I didn't have an afterglow or anything. I just felt fine. And I think like a couple weeks later, I found out that, unsurprisingly, I fucking bombed that biology test that I thought I acing because I wasn't fucking thinking about my answers. And also, I found that McDonald's coupon in my pocket again, and I gave it to my friend who said he'd use it. So that didn't go to waste, at least. Looking back on this trip is really interesting for me because it came out of the really poor mental state I had at the time, which obviously makes me associate it with bad memories, but despite that, there's just something about it that was super, super comfy. Like I said, my old school was a really weird building with really heavy liminal space / backroom vibes, and it was a fucking amazing setting for DXM. And it really did feel like I was dreaming the entire day, which is why I titled the report School of Dreams. After this, I did do DXM at school one more time, but it wasn't really as strong or noteworthy, and I've never done anything really like that since then. And it took me a long time, but eventually I did get my depression in check, and I was able to get my grades up on time to graduate high school. So if you're in a similar situation to how I was during this trip, just know things will get a lot better, and it won't be like that forever. Thanks for listening to this story. The next report's probably going to be in another month, like it always is, because it's hard for me to get motivated to upload videos, but thank you for sticking with me on those long wait times between uploads, and thank you for just watching in general. I'll see you guys in the next video.